We'll begin where these games begin, in the quote-unquote fugue state. Silent Hill 3 begins with Heather Mason, the protagonist of the third game, the daughter of the first game's protagonist. His name, Harry Mason. You play as Heather Mason in Silent Hill 3. You are alone, you are lost in an amusement park in the middle of nowhere.
Where am I?
An amusement park in the middle of nowhere because, well, it's scary. But also, in my opinion, it is a strictly artificial construction of human design, made by humans for humans, as opposed to, say, a natural park that is of nature but um, delineated by humans to facilitate human, excursion throughout. An amusement park does not exist without human creation, without intention, without artificial construction of some sort. And it's empty. And around you is dark. And there is no ceiling. There is no floor. It is pure abyss. It is liminal in its essence of your expectations, coinciding with the horror, the existential dread of it all, the isolation. Heather's beginning is one of isolation within chaos, within the world of SOMA. Simon Jarrett is too within his own fugue state. Our initial experience is through his eyes in the final moments of his loved one being killed in a car crash that would lead to his subsequent brain damage, an experimental operation which we as a player find ourselves walking towards in the very beginning.
All right, let me just get this out of the way. You are Simon Jarrett, correct?
Right.
Toronto, Canada, David Munchie. Born 1988, July 16.
Right.
Flat neurograph, version 6. Good. All files in order.
Will this hurt?
It's just a scan. It'll hurt about as much as getting your picture taken.
Indians thought cameras would steal their souls.
Is that so? Well, let's hope they're wrong. Ready? Say cheese.
What happened?
Hello? Mr. Munchie, did something go wrong? I'm not supposed to put myself in...
In Silent Hill 3, Heather is lost. She is wayward in a world that does not want her there. The monsters we encounter are never content with their existence. The vast majority seem damned to exist within the lonely streets and hallways of Silent Hill. Simon is suffering from loss within SOMA. It's never explicitly stated, but one can infer that the loss of his loved one might have sent him spiraling in his own means of being lost, perhaps spiraling down far enough to consider said experimental procedure that ends up being a sort of salvation, but at a cost that only seems to grow as the player pieces things together. Starting with Silent Hill 3, everything in this game written had to be translated from Japanese to English. Said Japanese to English translator is Nora Stevens Heath. Rely on Horror. Can you break down what the translation process was like for Silent Hill 3? Nora, I would like Nora. I would receive Excel spreadsheets with separate columns for the speaker name or label, such as book or letter, in the Japanese text, and then the English translation. I was also lucky to have had a ton of comments from the dev team that provided some extra context or background info to help inform my translation choices. RelyOnHorror.com. Heather's inner monologue is a lot sassier than those featured in the previous two games. Was that just how the Japanese text was written, or was some of it the result of your own artistic interpretation? Nora, I came to this project with a fresh eye/ear, having so little experience with the previous games in the series. That certainly contributed to Heather's unique voice. Additionally, I was young enough at the time that my own snarky teen girl years were still fairly fresh in my memory. Finally, it's important to me to capture the authentic dialogue in my translations for these characters to say things that actual people would say in natural sounding ways. I feel like Heather's English dialogue captures her personality without going overboard, say, into Valley Girl territory, or straying far from the original Japanese.
Then comes the next step. The actors really play the game scenes for the motion capture, which requires considerable physical and emotional involvement.
Did you do this? You're late. But why? Why?
Of course, the actors also record the voices of the characters.
Spoken game text needs to be about the same length in both languages. My biggest challenge for Silent Hill 3 in particular was definitely the song lyrics. Though I translated plenty of songs for fun before, this was my first time doing so for profit, and they had to be singable, which is an entirely new layer of challenge. I worked really hard on those, tweaking and retweaking them to what was essentially karaoke versions of the songs, and hearing the finished versions performed with proper vocals moved me to tears.
Though I can't know for sure how things worked out for us. No matter how hard it gets, you have to realize we weren't put on this earth to suffer and cry. We were made for being happy. So be happy for me, for you, please.
Hiroyuki Owaraku. Well, we draw influences from lots of movies, new and old, Stephen King, for example, and Jacob's Ladder. IGN. Do you have a favorite King story? Kazuhide Nakazawa. Probably The Mist from Skeleton Crew and Carrie. Okay, so regarding Jacob's Ladder. Okay, Jacob's Ladder employs liminal scenes of horror all too reminiscent of what Silent Hill would establish in their greater identity as a mystery horror game. The juxtaposition of trauma to isolation and confusion in a familiar but empty environment that sort of seethes in quiet discontent for the protagonist that is sort of intruding on its emptiness. That is the second scene in the movie. Okay, with all of that being said about Jacob's Ladder, I want to get a little bit more nuanced into this, idea of inspiration. Here is a video excerpt from a sort of Silent Hill superfan, Akamiya Hospital. I hope I pronounced that right. She further elaborates into said inspiration. Okay, the video is playing here. Oh wow, look at that. Wow, wow, she said some really cool stuff. Okay.
As mentioned before, many things in the series take inspiration from the original version of Jacob's Ladder. But Jacob's Ladder itself took a large amount of imagery directly from the photographer Joel Peter Witkin. The legless man in the cage, reminiscent of Silent Hill, in Jacob's Ladder was a direct quote of a Witkin photo.
This is for the Silent Hill SOMA video. The interview by LG and RD. That's all it says. Interviewer. If photography runs in your blood, then how do you explore the flesh in your photography? JPW. The flesh is the close of our corporeal existence. It identifies us whether we carry it well or if we're born with physical problems. All of us, from a theological standpoint, have liabilities and gifts that we have to deal with within life. We have to accept the pain as discovery. About 10 years ago, I made one image about abortion. It was a cadaver as Christ, and a fetus was near Christ. They were kind of embracing. It wasn't called abortion. It was based on a Auden poem, where one line read, Glacier knocks in the cupboard. It's like nature is a rebellion overwhelming us because we're not working within natural causes and effects. Abortion is a divisive subject right now. I'm a Democrat, and I disagree with some of what Obama talks about. This is not respect for life. In fact, I think life comes at conception, and I believe that we have souls. How can a mother destroy life in her body? The primary reason was scientific, but what it's doing, and the mother knows this, is cutting the fetus up and destroying it. It's a form of killing that people don't stand up for. Islam, like Christianity, wants to spread its message and convert the whole world. I think there will eventually be a war between those two beliefs. It's a terrible thing. I always say we can put a person on the moon, but every 3 seconds a child dies of starvation. That is criminal. Oh no, JPW. Regarding that last quote, while I don't agree with his final sentiment, and honestly weird tangent on Islam, all that aside, his art and sort of underlying fears of modernity inflicting harm upon this sort of non corporeal existence, i.e., the Christian idea of the soul, is a rather explicit embodiment of the horror that Silent Hill encapsulates. Um, I guess I should give insight into the two people who will watch this, maybe. um, I'm editing this sort of non-linearly, and like I recorded at least 50% of the script that I wrote like 2 weeks ago in a very strange mindset, and then now 1 week later, or not now, 1 week after that, I did another 25% of the script. That again is not really a script, it's kind of just a loose collection of voice memos that I'm tagging together. And then now I'm in the process of editing my old edits while making new stuff in Blender and traditional art and all this nonsense. And then my YouTube is recommending me Silent Hill stuff that's made by AI apparently. And anyway, to the to the point at hand in the last little segment ramble that I did, that I spoke on JPW and his, weird quote. Yeah, it sounds very stilted now that I listen to it, and very shallow and just vague in a way that doesn't mean anything. What I'm trying to get at is this weird sort of juxtaposition of religion within Silent Hill, while at the same time relying on Japanese sort of connotations of religion, being Shintoism and this sort of new age Christianity, um, brought about by sort of uh, imperialism. Um, and all of that shaken and stirred after world wars and the such. Not that I'm a expert in any regard on either of the two. It just my playings and now replayings of the game. It's bringing about a lot of like weird questions of religion that I feel JPW kind of encapsulated in that quote.
I don't believe his reasons for justifying what he does. I believe he does, again, like Arbus, he freaks disabled people. He deals with a human being and pushes them back into a freak position. Although he may claim humanitarian mission in his work, and his critics often claim this, actually they only can claim that because, as I said, the discourse doesn't have disabled people in it as a powerful group.
I believe David Heavey sort of sums up the innate contradiction in giving the perspective of minorities within horror, while at the same time relying on their otherness in order to profit from their isolatory existence. I guess I'll just ramble now, so you have at least something. I'm not trying to diminish JPW's work or his overall intent to highlight the struggles of disabled people, nor to say that he is merely, profit seeking in his motives. Mostly just to sort of give insight into like my thought process around this horror and like further exploring its inspiration and the kind of connotations that we take for granted when it comes to, again, the feelings of isolation and all that entails, whether that's specifically individual or it can be sort of abstracted upon a entire group, such as disabled people. And I believe art in the way of SOMA, in the way of Silent Hill 3, choose to not give answers to these questions to the player and to their audiences, but rather to sow seeds for discussion, hopefully, as I'm doing right now, to just sort of plant those seeds of thought and mindfulness in what we are and what we consume and what we base our fears upon, whether it be rational or irrational. And no, that's it. I'm gonna stop rambling now.